This is Godzilla. We are going to talk about my favorite movie, Godzilla 2014.
Yes!
We like this movie, Suzilla and I, because it's about us.
Yes!
Alert, alert. Godzilla and Suzilla have escaped the Kaiju Room. Operation Folded Taco is now in effect. Celeste, hide all tacos. Dallas, begin herding operation.
No! Why are the tacos always gone?
Tacos! Okay, what is happening here?
Where are we?
Glix, give us a situation report.
Currently, we are on the planet Geekery. Be warned, our impossibility drive may cause distortions as we traverse this land. Impending impossibility engaging in 3,
Oh, gosh.
2,
Oh, dear.
1.
Hello, Devoted Geeks. Welcome to Calm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, the show from Devoted Geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm Dallas, and this is
Celeste, and we are so glad that you have joined us today.
This is episode 90
Yes.
of Calm Talk. Super excited about it. It's been a busy day for us already.
It's been a busy day.
It's been a little while. The Godzilla and Suzilla escaped the Kaiju Room. I don't know how that happened.
Not entirely sure what's going on with them.
And apparently they have show notes out here talking about Godzilla 2014,
I guess.
which
How did they get into the movie room?
I don't know.
They don't have opposable thumbs.
They're talented.
I mean, they do, how did they work the remotes?
They're talented.
Yes.
So, but that works out for us because that is the next movie we're talking about on our road to Godzilla versus King Kong, which is a movie coming up here in just a couple weeks. And I'm excited. Last week we talked about Kong Skull Island, which was the first movie of the legendary franchise. And so Celeste and I were talking about when we're going to talk about this. Now, just to be clear, we've already talked about on Com Talk,
On Com Talk.
Godzilla 2014.
When was that?
That was episode 20. And actually, it split up into 2 episodes. And that was with our friends, the Ruiz family. And check out Francisco Ruiz. He is the host, or the co-host of Retro Rewind podcast. Will be links in the show notes down below for you guys to check out that episode with him. And also check out Retro Rewind, where he and Paul review movies 15 years old or older. I honestly cannot wait, Celeste, for this to become 15 years old.
Yes.
So we can
So we can go on to their podcast and talk about it.
I think that'd be fun.
That will be a lot of fun. Dear Paul and Francisco, when this movie becomes 15 years old or older, we would like to come on and be guests together.
Let's do it.
We're planning.
Right. We're planning your podcast, guys.
It's pretty close now if you think about it. I mean, it's 2021, so it's like what? 6 years? 6 years away?
Yeah. How weird is that?
Paul and Francisco, 6 years. In 6 years, we want to be on your podcast.
Let's go. That being said, guys, the audio may be a little bit different today. Celeste and I are testing out some new equipment for our church. And so bear with us. We've never used this before, but I got to work out the bugs before I start using it for my church.
Yeah.
So,
Yay for testing new products.
exactly. So, but we're going to be talking about Godzilla 2014. Like I said last week, we talked about King Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
Which I forgot we ended up. I think we ended at like 4 out of 5 kaiju.
I don't remember, but I believe you.
So, this movie right here, it's going to be an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, maybe some deeper thoughts about it. I'm going to say this. I've listened to several podcasts.
Really?
About this particular movie. And I will say there is a mixed reaction amongst individuals.
Is there really?
Yeah. Some people just don't like this movie at all.
Oh, that's sad.
Some people think it's the most amazing Godzilla film that's out there.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
I said some people think that.
It is one of my favorites.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Cool beans. Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. But we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your thoughts. And so, but let's talk about what this film is even about. If you were to pull up the IMDb, it's really not very descriptive at all. It's just not. The IMDb says this: the world is beset by the appearance of monstrous creatures, but one of them may be the only one who can save humanity.
Yeah, that's not descriptive at all.
It's a pretty terrible description, but apparently, like on IMDb, you can submit our descriptions.
Oh, nice.
And so a few people have done so. There was one that actually I really appreciated the way they put it. This was done by somebody named Nick Reganis. And if Rick is listening to this somehow, I apologize for ruining your name.
We're sorry. Please contact us and we will make it right.
Exactly. But Rick says this: 15 painful years after the unexplained and devastating incident in Jandira's nuclear power plant, the guilt-ridden nuclear expert Joe Brody is still looking for answers. Obsessed with unearthing the truth, the estranged father reunites with his son, the traumatized U.S. Navy explosive ordnance disposal technician, Ford, in a desperate effort to decipher a shockingly familiar seismic pattern as a gargantuan pulsating cocoon is just about ready to transform into something utterly terrifying. But from the abyss depths of the vast ocean emerges another numbing terror. That's a crazy way of describing it. Another numbing terror. The ultimate kaiju, the king of the monsters, Godzilla.
The ultimate kaiju.
Is he friend or is he foe? And above all, can he destroy the all-powerful adversaries and threaten not only San Francisco, but the entirety of humanity?
Is he friend or is he foe? That's what was running through my head when you said that.
I thought that was a good description of the film.
Yeah, that's a great description.
It blows through a lot of it. It is currently rated as like a 6.5 on IMDb, which I think is terrible. I'm not sure I'll rate it that low, but we'll get into that later. It's got quite a few individuals in it, people that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, about that.
Like it had Aaron Taylor Johnson as Ford Brody, who's kind of like the main character, the main protagonist. Is a protagonist? Is that the right word?
Yeah, he's the protagonist.
And I did not recognize him.
No. He kind of looks like the guy who was in Pacific Rim.
Only vaguely, but I can see that.
He's not, but he
Right.
looks like him to me.
Right. What was interesting was we just finished watching Age of Ultron,
Yes.
and we knew that Elizabeth Olsen was in it. She plays Ella Brody. Didn't realize Aaron was Pietro, yeah. Which is interesting because they go from playing siblings to married couple. So that was heavy awkward.
Well, to be fair, they played siblings like briefly, not even in the same room, in an after credit. Then they did this as married couple, and then they went back to siblings. They have a very strange relationship, I'm sure.
I'm sure they do. So, but Aaron and Elizabeth are both in this film, and it's a funny story. I was. We'll get into some of their acting. Well, we'll get into this now. As far as actors,
Yeah.
what'd you think of them?
I thought they did okay. I think they could have given Elizabeth Olsen a little bit more screen time, shown that perspective of things a little more, but I also just like her as an actress.
Right. So interesting story. So the guys over at one of the podcasts I listen to, which is called Kaiju Weekly.
Yeah, they're the ones who do the Kaiju Ramen
magazine. That I've been wanting to get. Yes. Yeah. I just need to get that magazine. Kaiju Ramen, if you guys are listening to this. Not Kaiju Ramen, Kaiju Weekly. I appreciate you guys. I enjoy your podcast. I love what you guys do. And I've enjoyed listening to you guys over the last, I think I found them probably about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
It's been about 2 months.
Yeah, and I've been enjoying listening to them. But they did a review of this. There'll be a link in the description for you guys to listen to their review of this. Mm-hmm. This was actually their first film that they reviewed.
Oh, interesting.
And they called Aaron Taylor Whitebread, Sergeant Whitebread, because he was so bland.
I mean, he was, but at the same time, I think he was just playing the stereotypical military grunt.
I don't know. Maybe
Like, he's a jarhead.
Not quite a jarhead. He's Navy.
He was acting like a jarhead.
But he just wasn't. Like, he wasn't present. Like, where there's supposed to be emotion, there just wasn't at certain times. He really just kind of went through. And I don't know if that's script writing.
I think it may be him because we kind of noted his lack of emotion and acting in Age of Ultron as well.
This is true. So, so he's not really looked upon favorably by several people already. And you and I were saying the same thing. Elizabeth Olsen, I think she did all right for the parts that she had.
Yeah.
And what's sad to me is the guy who I think did the best. He's the character that sticks out the most in the entire film. Is Ford's dad.
Yeah.
Joe Brody.
Yeah.
And like the description said, he's kind of distraught. In the beginning of the film, there's this. Let's talk about the beginning of the film.
Okay.
Because to be honest, the first, I don't know even how long the first like it's like maybe 20 minutes of the film, 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah, he's not in there long.
I think it's probably one of my favorite parts of it. One of my favorite parts. There's several parts that I like.
Yeah.
And I think this film, it does this thing where it goes up and then it kind of chills. And then like there's these swells of like, this is great. And Bryan Cranston is the actor who plays Joe Brody. I think he does a great job.
I feel like he's been in other things too.
Oh, he's been in tons of things. You've seen him in, well, you never watched Breaking Bad, but he was Malcolm in the Middle. He was in Argo. He was in The Stand. I mean, he's done lots and lots of stuff over the years. He's a great actor, fantastic actor actually. But in the beginning of the film, you have the disaster that takes place, where there's a nuclear power plant that he and his wife both work at, and there's these seismic, what do they call them? Seismic
waves.
Yeah, seismic waves of some sort. And he's concerned. He's like, this is not right. And he's like, hey, we got to shut down the reactor. And so he's trying to get a meeting, and he sends his wife to go check some stuff.
She needed to check the sensors because he wanted to make sure that it wasn't them going bad, and he looks like the hysterical American.
Exactly. So they send him. He sends her down there, unknowing that he was sending his wife to her death.
Yeah.
That scene. Let's talk about. Let's hover on that scene for a little bit. How did you take that scene?
It was interesting because at first you get the feeling that this guy is all business. He's not really focused on his family. He's all about his work because he's up early. He's talking on the phone and it's his birthday. His kid's freaking out because he's up, and his wife's like, it's okay, we're going to figure it out. But they managed to, in the short, because the wife is not in it for maybe 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
In that short amount of time, you went from your initial response of this guy is just your stereotypical absent father who's into business, but he's there, but he's really into his business, to he is somebody who legitimately cares about his wife. He cares about his family. And he cares about everybody else. Because this plant is on an island.
Right.
There's other people.
Yeah. So they very quickly they built a relationship there. The thing that got me was when he's sitting, or he's at the doorway, and he's yelling for his wife, "Hurry, hurry, hurry!" Like, you feel the emotion.
Yeah.
Cranston does such a great job of like you feel the terror of a man who's going, my wife may die.
Yeah. And I sent her there.
Exactly. And then to have he is the one with his hand. Not only did his wife to die, he's the one that locked her in.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, he had to be, because if he hadn't, she wouldn't have had as much of a chance, because somebody else would have shut that door much quicker.
Right. So, I don't know, like, that scene really got to me. Watching that emotional scene, like, that to me was the starting point of everything of the film that made me go, I'm into this film right now. Like, spoiler, I like this film.
We both liked this film.
Right. But that one portion right there, He did such a great job of wrapping you into it. And then the next 20 minutes of the film, you really see the effects of grief on a person.
Yeah, you do.
Like, and you see kind of both sides of it.
Yeah.
As much as we, as they call him, Sergeant Whitebread, was bland. There is a level of when you go through a great loss, some people come out just numb.
Yeah.
And this is where I was struggling with. Was he bland because he came out numb from dealing with the loss, or was he bland because the actor is just bland?
I think it may have been a bit of both. I think he may have been directed to play it like you're numb.
Mm-hmm.
But also I think it may just be some of the actor. But it does make sense for him to be less emotional in certain aspects because he does have the military training. And so with military guys, they instantly kick into the work mode when crap hits the fan.
And that is a thing. Like I've seen it happen. You and I have here in Shreveport. We live very close to a base, and we've known many people who are military.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, both my mentors are veterans, but one of them that I've been around a lot more. He is a Marine veteran.
Yeah.
And there is a mode that he kicks into.
That it's gonna get crap done, and it doesn't matter who's in his way. It's just gonna happen.
And then he'll just decompress later if he needs to. And so, if it was intentional, if the bland acting, look, we're just doing this, was intentional, it was a great job of showing the two sides of dealing with grief.
Yeah.
Whereas the father just dove into it out of guilt and grief. Mm-hmm. And then the son, on the flip side, he just pushed through it, came out, I'm just got to get life done, move forward, and just tried to ignore the pain that I'm dealing with.
Which would make sense considering the age he was, and then watching his dad descend into this almost mania.
Yeah.
That it would make sense for him to be numb and just kind of, okay, let's get this done. Okay, let's get this done. Okay, let's get this done.
Right. So again, and we may just be making too much of a deal of it. Is it legitimately that they did this, or is it a matter of it just was what it was? I don't know. I can't speak for that. But if it was legitimately, I think they did a great job playing that off. But Cranston, of course, he dies shortly afterwards. They Captain the Mudo. Which
I'm kind of sad about because I really wanted more of his. He did a good job of playing someone who you thought was crazy, who was obsessed, who is a conspiracy theorist type person. Not that all conspiracy theorists are crazy, but he was just a roll of aluminum foil away from being a tinfoil hat person. But he was right.
Yeah, he was.
And so I would have enjoyed getting to watch him gloat in being right.
Oh, yeah.
And I think him and Serizawa would have made a good combination of Serizawa's very staunch Japanese deadpan.
Right.
And then this lunatic over here.
Well, since you mentioned Serizawa, let's get into him. He's another one of the main characters. I'll put them in the top 4 characters. And so that does IMDb, apparently. But Serizawa, who Ishiro is, they say that he was actually named Ishiro Serizawa as homage to Ishiro Honda, who was the dude basically that he's the guy from the original Godzilla series. He did all the work there. And then Serizawa is a reoccurring character, or not a character, but the name of the main scientific character. And so you have Serizawa. Now, one of the things that a lot of people complained about, especially when this came out, like I took some time to go back and listen to previous podcasts that talked about this film. And one of the running problems a lot of people had with this film, and maybe let me know your thoughts.
Okay.
There wasn't enough information about who Serizawa was. Like, you felt like you were coming into the middle of a story. and there's a disconnect. You're like, who's Serizawa? Why is there this stuff that he knows? And the problem is, to really understand some of the stuff, you've had to have read the comic books.
I can see that, because the first time I watched this, I was real confused about Monarch too. I was like, what is happening? Like, and I kind of mentally clung to the military side of things because that's what I'm familiar with. That's what you generally see. Monarch was not as played up in this movie as it is in King of the Monsters.
Or even Kong Skull Island.
So it kind of took a background. So if you didn't know, like, I could definitely see that. It took probably the third watching of this for me to really understand who he was. Like, even when we watched King of the Monsters, he's in it again, and he references the same watch. And I was like, oh, that's sad that he's referencing this watch. And then watching it again the other day, I'm going, oh, that's the same watch. That was a carryover. So I could definitely see why people would complain about that.
Yeah. But he is a tricky character that you have to have basically read the other stuff. I remember when we first watched this film years ago, I initially thought perhaps these were callbacks to, not just callbacks, but direct references to 1954, Godzilla. Like, I thought maybe when I first watched the film that they were trying to play off as the events of Godzilla 1954 were a prequel to this film, which they've done that before in other films.
Yeah, they have.
Godzilla 1985, I'm sorry, 1984 or 1985, Godzilla Returns. That's the basis of it.
Gotcha.
Godzilla took place, and then all the other films in the film series did not happen. All the wild stuff, and then jump straight to 1984. And so I thought that's what they were doing here. But then you're like, no, this is a whole new world. And you've had to have read the comics
Whole new world.
where Serizawa, like, he's been involved since the back in the day. His dad was part of the beginning of Monarch, which even has some discrepancy because in this film they kind of made it sound like his dad died at Hiroshima, or Hiroshima, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Whereas in the comic book, his dad didn't die; he was just there for it.
I think at some point somebody said that it was actually his grandfather.
I don't remember that.
I have it. Maybe it was something my brain just invented. I haven't read the comics,
Right.
but I could have sworn that the watch, while it had been his dad's, had originally been his grandfather's.
I mean, maybe. But he specifically mentions that it was his father.
Yeah,
that was
he does.
in Hiroshima.
When he's trying to make the general feel crunchy.
Right. So those are kind of the four main characters that I would say are the main portions of the film, which kind of brings us to another topic of discussion about Godzilla. And I know that for those of you listening, like, well, how come you're not really telling us some more of the storyline and everything? We want to encourage you guys to watch it. We're kind of commentating on some of it. One of the complaints people have about this film, and again, this is one of the things I'd like to hear from you, Celeste, is the lack of seeing Godzilla. The lack of seeing him involved. And I know I've completely thrown the script out as how we were going to do this podcast.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're just kind of talking this out together. I'll tell you what, let's get into that question in a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about what we liked about the film. Let's do that.
Well, that conversation leads into something that I like about the film.
Well, good. Tell me what you like about it.
I actually am a fan that Godzilla was not shown a ton because it makes him seem scarier. It makes him seem more ominous. They show him. They show his back. They show flashes of him and the Mutos. But it's not as prevalent, and it's all to, I think, to build up this fear of how big and how bad he is. I mean, he's a big boy,
Right.
he's a chunk of monk. And so, which is something I know people have complained about, that he was a fat Godzilla.
Right.
But it's a film trick a script trick. I don't know what you call it, but it's been utilized before in some pretty well-known movies. The most notable example that I know of is in Silence of the Lambs. You know, you have this movie where this character, Hannibal Lecter, is the most memorable part of the movie. Like, even people who have never seen the movie know his lines. He was on a total of like 7 minutes.
Right.
And so, but it's the building up and the talking about it that make him so scary in that movie. So they were doing a similar thing with Godzilla.
Yeah, absolutely. Supposedly, Cranston is quoted as saying that the guy who directed this film was heavily inspired by the movie Jaws. Did you ever watch that one?
No, I haven't watched that one. Somebody told me that they hurt the shark in the end, and I didn't want to watch it.
Well, in Jaws, they play on this aspect of you don't actually see the beast of the deep until like the last couple bit of the movie. They hold off, and it's a thing to raise a suspense. Yes, but what it does is it builds up a suspense level, because what you're doing is you're turning the subject, the object that you're hiding, from being just a character to being a force, to being a what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's present. Like you don't just see him, you feel him. You feel the effects of him.
It lets your imagination do a lot of the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't have a ton of Godzilla information before we watched this movie the first time. I have since gained quite a bit more.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But coming into this, not having a ton of Godzilla information, because I didn't even watch the Godzilla from the 90s, the one that I like so much. I didn't watch that until I was a grown adult.
The first time you watched that, was that when you and I were on Retro Rewind podcast talk for the Summer of Free?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I'd ever seen it.
We talked about that.
We did. So it's not like I had this predisposition, so I didn't know what Godzilla was supposed to look like. And so when he comes out of the water and they show you his full form, it is so much more terrifying as someone who didn't know what to expect than it would have been had they instantly been like, oh, look, this is Godzilla. And then you also have the fact that the scientists, the Monarch agents, had never seen Godzilla full out. He hadn't necessarily been on land. They were just bombing floating scales. So it kind of gives you that. It's an interesting perspective.
Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I guess I didn't realize this was your first Godzilla film.
I think it was. I think that's why it's in my top 10.
Right. So this obviously
Top
brings
10,
a
top
level
5.
of difference for you trying to experience this as a new. I think a lot of people who talk about Godzilla in podcasts, they're longtime Godzilla fans at some point. So again, like we said, he's more of a force than just a character.
Yeah.
And
I take that back. I think you and I watched the original Godzilla when we were dating.
Did we really?
I think we did.
I don't remember that, but I believe you.
I have vague, for the podcast listeners, when Dallas and I were dating, his sister had a cat. And so I would go to their house and chill, but I would have to take Benadryl while I was there. So there's quite a few movies that I kind of remember seeing, but not really. Right. Because I was on Benadryl and coffee and barely staying awake. I just wanted to hang out with my people.
It happens. But like I said, this Godzilla is more of a force. At least that's what they were doing with it.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to something else I like about the film. And they did a little bit with the Kong film. They put you in the perspective of individuals in very interesting ways. Example, the airport scene where Godzilla first fights the Muto, and right before they do the first big reveal, you see Godzilla put his foot down, boom, and it goes black, right? But it's from perspective of somebody. They're inside of this massive. I think it's an airport, and there's this massive window, and they're seeing this take place. Or there's a couple times where you're seeing it through the eyes of goggles. Like they've put these goggles on for one reason or another, whether it's the halo jump, and you see these flashes. And the fact that they've closed the world in, or they made the world so so big, but the camera's so small. It really gave you a sense of the gargantuanness of Godzilla, the Mutos, and just, again, the force of what these creatures were.
Yeah. I think that another really good thing they did is when Godzilla was first fighting the Muto, and it was in Honolulu, and it was on the news in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. They went from showing you flashes through firelight of Godzilla and the Muto, mm-hmm. but then they switched to Brody's son watching it on the news.
Yeah.
And so that is actually when you get your first really good look at Godzilla, but it's on a TV.
Exactly. Like, they do a great job just putting you... Again, I keep going back to this vocabulary. He's a force. Mm-hmm. You never, like... when the second Muto is revealed, and it's escaped from the bunker that's been eating radiation for 15 years... You see the back of it from a distance. You're like, what the heck's happening?
Right.
It cuts away. And the next thing you know, you see people banging on doors and these firefighters coming into this room that's half the building is gone. And they look out, you see helicopters flying by, and all you see is the path of destruction of the Mutos. The director, in my opinion, was intentional about making you feel the effects of these creatures as if they were... a tornado, a hurricane. A lot of the imagery that they had reminds me of news channels coming in after a natural disaster.
Yeah, forces of nature.
And you're like, wow, this is crazy.
So maybe we should start naming our hurricanes here in Louisiana after kaiju.
We had a Category 6 King Ghidorah hit today. And
No, not a King Ghidorah, because that means it's hit Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas all at the same time. We don't need Ghidorah.
Because it's 3 heads.
Because it's 3 heads. No. It would need to be, we have a 2014 Godzilla. We have a 1999 Godzilla.
Oh, I love this so much. I love
this is now how Dallas is going to refer to hurricanes. We have a Rodan coming.
Right. All right. So, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to read some comments from some of you amazing Devoted Geeks from our Devoted Geek Life poll that we put up. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that we didn't like. So we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Hey y'all, my name's The Keeper. I have been told that I'm something of a, what they call a Q-type character in this show called Playing Games with Strangers. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, given the implications of who this Q is on this fangled Star Trek or whatever it's called. But anyway, I recommend heading on over to Playing Games with Strangers and listening to an episode or two and possibly letting them know that no, he's not Q. He is a benevolent, all-knowing creature who just happened to put somebody in the wrong timeline. Anyway, I'll see y'all then. Thanks for listening.
All right, and we are back. From our commercial break, I want to encourage you guys to go check out those guys that we just showed you. We never play a commercial for anybody here that we just don't personally like. It's just how it is. Nobody pays us money for these commercial breaks. If you'd like to pay us,
we will take paid promotion, and we will promote you even if we don't like you. If you pay us within reason.
Now we will be honest about you.
Oh yeah,
especially if you give us product. I'll give you an honest product review. So give us good product.
If you want a good review, give us good product.
Right. Speaking of reviews, let's hear some reviews from some people from Devoted Geek Life that we posted a poll on. And I want to encourage you guys to join Devoted Geek Life. Go on Facebook.com, look up Devoted Geek Life, and you will find our you'll find our group. All right. So Drew from Cellcast podcast. Says, first Godzilla movie I saw in theaters. It was awesome. Now, I'm wondering if it was his first Godzilla film ever or if it was just the first one he saw in theaters.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So he said that. Now, the rest of the comments, well, no, we'll get into that in a second. Kevin, the Dapper Man, says, okay, I'm not going to read that Kevin's. So let me read Josh Berkey. He goes, this GIF, which the GIF I posted up for the poll, is this
stinking adorable
Godzilla with his tail lighting up different colors, and then he's spraying a rainbow with like this kawaii eyes on.
Kawaii.
And he says this GIF was better than the movie.
Oh, I mean, the GIF is pretty awesome.
And then our friend John Haryu of Primitive Rhythm Machine, which is a podcast segment we have here at Geek Devotions, he says, meh.
Meh.
Which leads us to the stuff that we're going to go meh on for this film. So Celeste, what did you look at this film and go, meh?
I mean, I'm not great at critiquing things because I really didn't have any great dislikes of it. Mm-hmm. There's a few things I really wish that Joe Brody had been in it more. Mm-hmm. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more backstory on Serizawa. There was a few times where I'm just going, why are people being stupid? Like when it was showing the people who've been injured in the initial attack on Honolulu, mm-hmm. they had people like hooked up to IVs, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, I know those IV pumps. A, they're not on. B, they're electric. If the Muto comes through and does an EMP, they're not gonna pump.
Ladies and gentlemen, Celeste works for the medical field. She's not a nurse necessarily, but she knows a thing or two.
I have less schooling than a nurse.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you've seen a thing or two. I will say that there are some small things here and there that just like didn't make sense. Like how come nobody noticed the giant hole out of the back of a mountain?
That to me kind of made sense because if it had just happened, they probably heard the noise.
That's the thing is they didn't. They were just going through the building, room by room. Like they're like, oh, check this one. Oh wow, there's a lot of
bright light. What happened?
What's going on? So that was just ridiculous to me. And there's several small moments where they're like, do you guys have common sense?
The fact that in the nuclear storage place, they weren't wearing nuclear things. Like they're just running around, checking doors.
And that's another thing that drives me nuts. It's like and you see this several times in several different Godzilla films. They know that these creatures survive and eat electric waste. Or not electric waste, but nuclear waste. The first Muto, I mean, he literally, like his cocoon cleared the entire city of all the nuclear fallout. And
sucked 3 reactors dry in a day. I'm like, why are you feeding it?
And they're like, our bomb will take care of this. No, dude, it doesn't work that way.
Well, and I kind of understand it because the general was like, because they said that they're like they eat radiation. He goes, yeah, it's the lure, and then the blast is going to take them out. I'm like, because that's worked before?
Exactly. It's like saying, yeah, we're going to give this fish a worm to lure him out, but then we're going to give him a bigger worm to kill him. What?
Slap him in the head with the worm.
So that was annoying. That being said, one of the common things that people have said, I want us to get your thoughts on this list.
Okay.
One of the big complaints that people have often is there was too much human element in the movie. There were too many, it focused too much on the people. Now, you and I kind of handled this a little briefly on the previous segment when we were talking about the fact that we enjoyed that we didn't see Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like we appreciate that he was more of a force to be reckoned with than an actual character.
Right.
But was there too much focus on the people in the film?
I think that it was trying to achieve something different. And the people who wanted to watch it for a Godzilla film We're not wanting that. But even in the original, they focused a lot on the human element. It's not like Godzilla was, around constantly. I think Godzilla was actually more active in Shin Godzilla than he was in the original.
Well, let's not use Shin Godzilla as a measuring stick either, because that's a highly debated one also.
Derpzilla. I kind of want Derpzilla. I want that.
It's a stuffy?
It's a stuffed animal. It's so cute, except I want its little neck to rotate grossly like it did in the...
What is happening here?
It's like I like stuffed animals with tongues, and then I can stick my finger in their nose. It's just a thing.
Well, if anybody's out there can find Derpzilla for us.
Derpzilla.
That's an adorable stuffy. Let us know.
Because Dallas has to shop for my birthday soon.
Yes, I do. It's coming up soon. All right. So I think you're hitting on a point that I feel like I agree with. There is the human element, but that's how you tell stories. Yeah. I mean, if all we were doing was following a beast doing stuff, I mean, well, we got Monstrous Discovery Channel. Is that what people want?
I mean, they did do a quite successful movie about penguins, but that had Morgan Freeman narrating it. So
maybe that's what we need is Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, if you're listening to this podcast, we need you to narrate Godzilla.
Morgan Freeman, if you're listening to this podcast, I need you to let us know, because I will just die. Just be like, what? And die.
So, but I feel like you need the human. Now, could the human element been better acted at times? Yes,
yeah, sure.
We discussed that earlier. Sergeant Whitebread.
He was Lieutenant Whitebread.
Lieutenant Whitebread. Again, if it was done on purpose, okay. If it was just bland acting,
I'm kind of offended for Whitebread. Because, I make some really good white bread.
But you make sourdough white bread.
I make pretty good regular bread. Technically, the hollow bread is a white bread.
You gonna make some for us this weekend?
Maybe.
Sweet. Eating good tonight, guys. No. But I think if the element of the acting had been a little bit better, I think people would have less issues with it. I think the problem is, and let me know your thoughts on this, Celeste, and those of you who are listening, I want to know your thoughts, is the desire to have seen more kaiju fighting. Do you think it's based on the fact that society, pop culture, when they present Godzilla, when they present kaiju stuff, they always cut to the monster rampaging the city? Like that's like when you watch pop films, they cut to a scene of a kaiju thing. It's always showing you the XYZ monster, whether it's a giant ant or whatever,
Tremors,
destroying destroying the cities. But they don't show you the 45 minutes that led up to that of human interaction, dealing with it, struggling with it, and then the time after them had them trying to get through it. Like these are part of those films that they show, but pop culture only shows you those couple minutes of action. Do you think people have been trained to think a kaiju film is only good when those things are taking place?
I don't know, because maybe that's just what's most memorable about those movies. Like, because of the destruction, of the intensity of the destruction. The Alien movies, the first one was incredibly long and did not show the xenomorph a ton. It showed it enough, but nobody talks about the in between things.
Right.
They talk about when the xenomorph's on the screen. So maybe it's just because it's so big, because it's so fantastical, that's what people focus on, and so that's what they go to see. They don't go to watch a movie about, a military guy who just got home and has to go save his dad from jail because he was breaking a quarantine zone. And until you brought in the monsters, it was just a regular old movie.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let us know. And you guys can reach out to us all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just private message us, what did you think, or what do you think about this particular topic? Why is it that people feel like human element is not worth it?
Give us some point of reference, though. We've had some interaction from the podcast that it comes a few days later, and it leaves us both going, wait, what?
What did we say?
We don't remember.
Looking at you, John. How are you?
David Gardner.
So let us know, guys. And let's have a conversation about this. So, Celeste, let's bring this down. Final rating. Part 2 of our road to Godzilla vs. Kong. Is this movie worth watching?
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this is like the third time, maybe the fourth time I've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy it every time. I'm always finding something new, whether it's good or bad. I'm always finding something new. Like I just now noticed about the IV pumps this go round. I didn't notice that before.
Right.
There was a couple times I'm like, this is not how that should go. Like when Brody was telling the EMT, when the EMT was like, did you pass out? And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, that EMT would not let him leave because EMTs are like a dog with a bone. Did you pass out?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So out of 5 kaiju, what are you rating it?
I'm going to say 5.
All right. All right. So for me, I'm with you. I like this one a lot. Every time I watch it, there's something new. There's things I love about it. The Halo drop scenes are gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, we need a poster of one of those Halo drop scenes.
I know, right? And if I remember correctly from our first round talking about this with the Roos family, that was a favorite for all of us. Was the Halo drop scene? It was gorgeous.
I don't think I was on that podcast. I think I'd gotten sick.
You had, unfortunately. And so you have all that taking place. And like every time I see it, like you said, I see something new. I would like to check out. I need somebody to confirm this for me first. They've released the 4K version.
Oh,
yes, it's a new set. I think I heard there might be a steel box. One of the common complaints about this movie is it's so dark.
It is so dark.
So dark and so seen. And I can't remember it being that dark when I watched it in theaters.
I remembered it being that dark when we watched it, but when we first watched this movie, it was on your laptop in the car.
I watched this movie in theaters.
I did not.
Yes. So, yes, in my car on the laptop, probably pretty dark. But I don't recall it being this dark in theaters. So I'm curious, if somebody's watching this and you bought the 4K version, is it as dark as the DVD, as the original Blu-ray release?
See, but then we don't have a 4K TV, so then I don't know if...
My hope is they've remastered the entire process.
That might work. That might help.
Yeah. We also have a 4K player. So.
But does it show up even if it's not a 4K TV?
It won't be as clean, but yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't know these things.
For me, I'm going to give it a 5.
Woohoo!
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a good movie. It was fun. I like the human elements to it. I mean, I recommend this.
Yeah. Though admittedly some of the acting could have been better. But I mean, still.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, guys, that is our review on Godzilla 2014. Celeste, you got any final thoughts on Godzilla 2014?
Go see it.
Go see it. All right, so guys, go check it out, and we want to hear your thoughts. What did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? If you haven't seen the movie, has this convinced you to maybe see it or not see it? Let us know. And then, like I said, check out the show notes for the links for those other individuals that we mentioned before, because they're amazing. Join us next week because we're going to be talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
I was like, which one comes next? I forgot.
We're going to do that one. And then we're also going to have, at some point, we have another Primitive Rhythm Machine coming out. And
yes. And then at some point, we'll also have a Bees Views and Reviews.
Right. But the Bees Views and Reviews is probably going to be postponed for a little bit. But then what I'm also really excited about also is we're going to have a episode with Josh Berkey of Victims and Villains. I want to encourage you guys to go check out that podcast. Go subscribe to it right now. And we're going to be talking about the original Kong versus Godzilla from the 60s.
Yes.
I'm really excited about that conversation with Josh.
And then we're going to be having a conversation on Josh's podcast, Victims and Villains, about the new movie.
Yes. Excitement.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right, Celeste. Well, let's land this plane, and then we need to go check on Godzilla and Suzilla and make sure they're okay, and feed them tacos and rub their bellies.
We fed them tacos, so I don't understand why they got out, because we just fed them.
Did we give them Tapatio though?
I don't know, but I know that it was barbacoa tacos.
It might have been the Tapatio. I don't think we gave them Tapatio this time.
Well, that's your department.
I'm sorry. We'll fix that.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Com Talk today. If you have loved this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It is very much appreciated. So until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.